Welcome to Get Set Up. If you're looking for help with Medicare out-of-pocket costs, Medigap could be the answer for you. Let's talk about today how Medigap works and how, if you choose to have one of these plans, how do you find the right plan for you? Again, let's back up to what Medigap is. So Original Medicare comes with out-of-pocket costs for you, the consumer. There are deductibles, there are co-pays, there's co-insurance. How do you fill those gaps? One of the best ways to fill the gaps for Medicare out-of-pocket costs is something called Medicare supplements, which is also called Medigap. If you actually look in the Medicare New Handbook on page 10, you will note that Medicare supplement is also considered Medigap. So we will refer to that as Medigap today. In order to get a Medigap plan, you need to qualify for these plans, and there's a few ways you can do that. One very, very important way to get a Medigap plan is during your Medigap open enrollment period of time. What this is if you are 65 or older, and that's very important to hear, or older, it's when you're first starting Medicare and you're getting your Part B coverage activated with the federal government, and you're over age 65. You could be 65, you could be 70 years old. So as long as those two parameters are together, 65 plus, and starting your Part B coverage for the first time, you have a 6-month window where you can go get any Medigap plan that you would like to. When we talk about any Medigap plan, we're talking about 3 in particular. There are 10 different standardized Medicare supplement, aka Medigap plans. However, the most common, most popular today plans are Plan G, Plan N, and there is a Plan F, which is available to people that were eligible for Medicare prior to 2020, January 1st, 2020. Not many people purchase those plans any longer. Plan G is the current Cadillac of plans, and Plan N is becoming more and more popular each year. Now, something to understand with Medigap plans is you cannot purchase these if you have a Medicare Advantage plan. You do not get these in addition to Medicare Advantage. Medigap plans are only going to be covering and plugging the holes of Original Medicare. So you cannot have Medicare Advantage and a Medigap plan. You will have Part A and Part B of Original Medicare plus a Medigap plan. And let's talk about the other ways. If you're not inside or have access to that Medigap open enrollment plan, how do you go get this Medigap contract? A couple of ways. You can be leaving employer coverage, and let's say you had your Part A and Part B for a few years. We don't recommend doing that, but if you do and you didn't know any better, you can still get something called guarantee issue Medigap plans. It is a way to secure that plan without medical underwriting. However, for the rest of you, you're going to be looking at going through medical underwriting. You're going to go through medical underwriting, and you'll be screened with health insurance questions asked by your insurance agent. There is no actual physical, but you're going to be answering a series of medical questions. The insurance agent will record those answers and submit your application to the insurance company. If you are approved, you will get that Medigap plan. If you are not approved and you're declined, you cannot have that Medigap plan. So it's important, number one, to realize that very often you need to be in good health to be able to qualify for these Medigap plans. In terms of actually buying that Medigap plan, let's say you are a healthy consumer and you go to an insurance agent and you're looking for plans. How do you actually figure out what's the right Medigap plan for you? There are dozens and dozens of plans in each state. So number one, you want to be careful of a couple of things. You want to be careful that you're not just isolating your decision to cost. Now, again, these plans are federally standardized, and what that means is that a Plan G is a Plan G is a Plan G. So if an insurance company A has a Plan G for $100, insurance company B has the same plan for $130, you might look at that $100 plan and say, well, why not? Why would I not choose that cheapest policy? And some agents will say that that's the appropriate thing to do. However, you want to be careful because insurance companies can play some games. That probably doesn't come as a surprise to you, but you want to be careful because some insurance companies will come into the market for a few years and they will not survive. So when you think about Medigap, remember that I said you have to typically medically qualify for these plans. If you're in a plan that no longer is open, what we call an open book of business, let's say they operated for 3 or 4 years, they shut down, they're not taking any new participants, you're stuck in that group with a smaller potential group of people, your rates can go up. All right. So if you've got a small group of insureds they stop any new premiums from coming in and they shut down the plan, you could be in a situation where the rates increase and accelerate. If you have a bad diagnosis or current health issues, you may have some problems. It's recommended typically that you go with a largely rated, older, solid name carrier if you could. Can't name names, but just understand there are some carriers that have been doing Medigap plans for years and years and years. So just be careful in what you're choosing. And the reason that you want to pick a big, well-known carrier sometimes is that you just want price stability over the years to come. All right, so remember these plans, once you leave them, you may not ever get those back. And you don't want to get priced out of having these plans in place. So be careful in how you select those. Final notes about where to find information about Medigap plans. You can visit medicare.gov for a listing of Medigap plans in your zip code. And then you can contact independent agents. You can contact ship counselors about getting the actual plan if you decide to take the route of Medigap insurance. Tune into more Medicare segments here on Get Set Up.